morning. I'm talking to Aliyah, an Israeli relocation consultant, Morris Singer. Hi, Morris. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Joanne. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Morris, I'd like to talk a little bit today about making Aliyah, specifically from South Africa. What should be the first step that a person does if they have decided that they're going to make Aliyah, or would just like to get as much information they can on the process and the procedure?
I think the first stage would be to contact the Jewish Agency for Israel that has branches both in Johannesburg and in Cape Town. And the agency will be able to furnish them with either some written material or websites so that they can start to read up about all they need to know about relocating to a foreign country, specifically to Israel. The process is not complicated, but there is a certain amount of paperwork involved. And I'll give you one simple example. South Africa normally issue what's called a basic birth certificate, but it doesn't have enough information that the Israeli Ministry Home Office requires. So they require what is called an unabridged birth certificate. And this can take several weeks or months to get in South Africa. So there's a lot of paperwork and things. Are you eligible to make Aliyah? Do you come under the law of return? What is your religion? Etc. Etc. All that type of thing. And then they need to learn up and can I say what they shouldn't do, or not exactly what they shouldn't do, but what they should be careful. One of the things I've said over the 40 years I've been in the Aliyah business is that friends and relations are the Ole's worst enemy. They want what they think is best. They give you information based on their own Aliyah that might have been 25 years ago. Give you information that's totally historical, and if it's good information, things that you like to hear, you tend to remember all the things that you want to remember and forget all the things that you don't want to remember. So it's important that you get good expert information and advice before you cross the T's and dot the I's.
I've also heard that in South Africa they have what's called Aliyah fairs. What exactly is an Aliyah fair? What happens there? Where would the fairs be? In Johannesburg, Cape Town?
Well, up until fairly recently, there were like 2 fairs a year, both in Cape Town and in Johannesburg, whereby people used to come, meet all sorts of people that came from Israel, housing, real estate agents, banking people, health services, people like myself, immigrant counselors. I have to say that this has become a very expensive exercise for the Jewish Agency, and in many ways, without trying to plug Askimo, this type of service now that I'm able to sit in Ranana and speak to people in the same way as I would be speaking to them in Johannesburg, in South Africa. For me, it's a shame because I love coming to South Africa. It's such a beautiful country. But in fact, in all practice, this type of service online is what the people should really be doing. Not be afraid to ask questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question. It's better to ask now than to regret later on. So that's there are fairs. I believe they now have them once a year. I believe it's much smaller than it used to be. And hopefully, maybe they'll find budgets to increase them, and experts like myself will be able to once again visit the country and speak to the people really on a one-to-one basis. But at the moment, this type of operation that we're doing here is pretty good because it allows you to really get up-to-date advice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Morris, also, what happens in South Africa that I know also happens in America and other countries is they have what's called an Aliyah flight. What is an Aliyah flight? What would be the benefits of joining an Aliyah flight as opposed to making Aliyah on your own?
Up until, again, historically, there weren't Aliyah flights. In other words, if I decided I need to make Aliyah in March, I would go in March and make Aliyah. In the recent years, they decided that, by putting people together on flights, they could make a much more efficient service. In other words, all the people get off the plane, they're all processed through the ministry, they all get their immigrant books, later on they get their ID cards, normally at a ceremony in Jerusalem by the wall. I mean, making Aliyah it's not emigrating to a different country. It's coming back after 2,000 years in the diaspora. And what could be more emotional than being presented by a member of the Israeli Knesset, sometimes even the President of Israel, with your ID card at a ceremony at the wall. So there's a lot of emotion involved, but as well as opening bank accounts, registering with the health services, doing things in groups. What I would say, in all fairness, if the flight was on July the 1st and my best friend was getting married in Johannesburg on July the 5th, I'm not going to not go to my best friend's wedding because I'm going to miss that flight. In other words, it's fine, it's great, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't mean you can't make Aliyah exactly when you want to go. But it's a very nice way of doing it. There's also a feeling that you're not alone, you're not the only person making Aliyah. It's a whole group of people. It's quite a nice feeling. But it's not like going on a package holiday where you're all shipped off for a week and then you'll make the best of friends. I mean, you're going to arrive, you're going to meet people. It's a nice way of networking. Then everybody goes off to the place which they have chosen to go prior to Aliyah. If I have another few seconds to add one important thing. There's no such thing as saying, you know what, I'll arrive in Israel, I'll stay a couple of days at the hotel, then I'll decide where I want to go. Jewish agency won't put you on the flights unless you know exactly where you're going to go, because otherwise there's a situation you say, well, I like the hotel, feed me, house me, things are great. So it's all part of a process. It's not, you have to know where you're going.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us that information today, Morris. It was wonderful to talk to you again.
It's my pleasure. Anytime, Joanne. Anytime.
Okay, I hope to speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.